everybody, and welcome back to my workshop. It's Tom Christie in the carving shop. This will be session 2 of carving Preening Drake Mallard, smaller than life size, about 6 inches long. In the previous session we got the head shaped up. In today's session I'm going to add a few details to the bill before we move on to rough shaping the body. Probably get the body rough shaped today, and then in the third session we'll get the bird assembled and finish it up, get it ready for paint. If you're enjoying my channel, please hit the subscribe button. Many of you have done that. We have over 6,000 subscribers now. That's so encouraging to me. The only thing I'm trying to accomplish with this channel is to share something that I love with other people. And that kind of response tells me there are people interested in this out there, especially you newer carvers, people that haven't tried it before but have a creative spirit. It's a great way to express yourself and be creative. And when you're done with your efforts, you have something you can share with others or keep on the shelf, make your own collection, swap with other people, gift to other people. So it's brought me a lot of joy, and I wanted to share that with other people. Hopefully that's being accomplished through this channel. That's enough talking. Let's get started on session 2 here. Thanks for coming back. All right, let's go through a little bit of layout work. By the way, this is a knife from Mallard, who is a world champion carver, and I'm fortunate enough to have one of his custom-made knives. Mally's not paying me to say that. I just really enjoy carving with that knife, and will be a part of this project. So the layout work I've done, I've penciled in, this bird's going to have cross primaries. It's going to have this tail curls down here, so I've just kind of penciled in their location, roughed in the tail as it meets the body here. Put a mark where the cape comes back. This bird I'm going to have preening in this position and kind of digging in just behind the cape here. So I'm going to leave material over here, leave this high, this will come down. We'll do some shaping of the breast as the head turns around, pushes down. It's going to push the breast out a bit on this side, the opposite side from the head. So we want to portray that if we can in this carving. So now I'm going to go to the carving bench. We'll rough out some of these shapes and begin to refine the body. Okay, I'm going to do a lot of carving with this 1/4-inch cylindrical burr. And I'm going to be very careful with that, especially in areas like this where I'm pulling against the grain. I don't want to push the burr too hard, just let it do its work. And especially pulling against the grain, it can really bite in if you're not careful and jump, and we don't want that. Same thing here, I'm just very lightly feathering out material, keeping my hands out of the way, and I'm cutting the V between the primaries there and taking that down to the tail curl. Now I'll work this other side, just beginning to define where these primaries cross here, and I'll have to go deeper, but this gets things started. Cutting a little definition along this side where those tertials overlap the other side, and then lowering that opposite side a little bit lower than the primary group that's on top there. Now I'm going to remove material from this side Just working slowly again. I'm keeping this at normal speed just so you can get a feel for the speed that I'm carving with this burr. Okay, I've kind of got some definition around where the primaries cross there. And I need to take out wood on either side of the primary groups here. Keeping in mind that I'm going to carve a tail curl, so I've kind of got that penciled in so I don't take off too much material between the crossed primaries. We'll get to that carving here in a minute. I'm lowering the lower primary group then to create a different level so I can angle this group down and into the side pocket. And I'll come back later and show you I didn't get this deep enough on this pass to get the proper angle on that group of primaries. So I'll come back and address that later. I'm just going to take my time and remove material. We'll shift to a larger burr and a little bit later when I need to hog off some wood just around the body. But right now I'm using the smaller burr. Now I'm penciling in where the tail curl is going to be. And I'm going to use the edge of that burr just to carefully remove material on either side of the tail curl and back under the primaries here. I'm going to undercut the primaries a bit so that I can expose that tail curl from the side and we can see more of it in the finished bird that way. On this side I'm pulling against the grain, so I have to be extra careful with the burr and not push it too hard. I know I keep repeating that, but it's one of the things I've learned the hard way is you just can't push these burrs too hard or they're going to jump on you. Pulling against grain. Just be cautious. Now I'm going to start defining the upper surface of the tail feathers. Going to my penciled guideline down below, and I'll show you a little better view of that here in a second, and then just removing material as I go. I do want to leave enough material in this area to define some tertials, so I don't want to cut that too deep and not have enough wood left to form up those tertial feathers. Very characteristic on a mallard drake, big, large tertial feathers in back. So you can see I've kind of defined the upper edge of the tail on that side, and I'm just going to fair that down where the tail coverts meet the tail, and then leave some wood up in this area for now. I'm using the end of that cylinder to kind of surface the side of that curled tail feather. Just put a little definition in there. There's a little better view of the work I've done. Now I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Cut in the top surface of the tail feathers and blend that up to the center line. Pulling against the grain here now, so very cautious, but removing material so that I can round that area where the tertials will lay onto the body. And then removing material around this tail curl feather. There you can see my pencil guidelines on the tail itself. I'm going to leave about a 3/16 thickness on the tail. This is meant to be a kind of just a decorative decoy, so not a fully decorative bird where every tail feather is defined. So I'm going to leave a little bit of thickness there for strength. You can see I just undercut the tail feathers on that side. Now I'm going to carefully do this side against the grain. And again, I'm using the end of this burr like an end mill to help shape the lower side of the tail feathers, and then round that rump area below. I'll likely go back and thin that tail up a bit, but I want to keep it strong right now while I'm maneuvering the bird around, and it's possible I might, knock it into something, and I don't want to not have enough strength there. I can always thin it up later. A little better view of the work that's been done so far on that tail curl. Just roughed in at this point, and I'll come back and undercut those primaries more to expose more of the tail curl from the side view. I'm just rounding the rump and cleaning up the lower side of the tail. I'm digging it in a little bit more on the top side of the tail. That tail curl lays over the tail feathers, so I need to give some definition around that. Make sure I cut this deep enough. All right, now I want to shift to this 3/4 inch ball-nosed saber-tooth burr, fine tooth, and this will do a quicker job of taking material off the body just to begin to round it up. Get rid of the bandsaw ridges. I'm not going to try to define the side pocket locations at this time. I'm just giving some roundness to the overall body shape. You can see I'm keeping my grip away from the burr just to make sure my hands don't get too close. Same thing on this side, and I can begin to pull material out here as those primary feather groups tuck in and cross each other. I'm rounding the side pocket above and below. Now we want to work on the breast here, and the head is going to be cocked back to one side, and the opposite side, the breast is going to protrude a bit, so I want to carve a little bit of a concaved area here between the side pocket and the breast as it protrudes out on the opposite side from the head. Taking material off this side because the head is going to rest on the opposite side. So I'll leave that area high and take this side down a bit. Now I've cut a little groove there, and now I'm smoothing that out back towards the side pocket to create a little definition on this side of that breast. As the neck pushes down in the preening position, it extends into that breast area and makes the feathers and the breast protrude a little bit on that side. Now I'm just rounding that area in general. I'm going to leave that high spot on this side until I get the body rough carved, and then we'll come back. I'll take some material off there as we set the head in the proper position. But right now I want to leave enough wood up there to give myself some flexibility. This is all just rough shaping. As when I attach the head, I'll do final shaping of the neck, the head tuck, and the breast. It's a good view of my watch there. Can't see much carving. That's a better view. I just continue to work that area on the opposite side of the head to put some roundness in there and some separation. That's probably enough for now. You can see a little bit of shape there. I've started to define from the front. You can see the head is setting high right now. We'll work on that position later. Right now I want to work on undercutting these primaries, opening up that area and carving the tail curl. So I've got a little flame-shaped ruby bit beginning to work this area down where the curl starts its turn down between the primaries there. I'm going to use the edge of this to undercut these primaries a little bit more, take material out so we can open this area up. Same thing over here. I've kind of penciled in where I want to undercut the primary here. Get some wood out of the way so we can do more carving on the tail curl. Now I'm going to use the tip of this bit to begin to really dig in, define the tip of the tail curl. Just kind of getting things set. Then we'll come back and pencil in the tail curl so I have a little more guidance as I shape that up. Still working on undercutting those primaries. After we get some wood out of the way here, we'll get back to the pencil, do some layout work on the tail curl feathers themselves, and then do some additional carving to define their shape. Starting to get roughed out. Now we can work on that tail curl. All right, I want to do a little more sketching here. I think I'm going to make on this carving this a single tail curl and not try to get too elaborate, because the other curl would be kind of tucked under there. So I'm going to get a through hole here so I can begin to shape up that tail curl. Take some material out here to form that kind of V shape
in back. And I'm going to define the cape a little bit here, so we have that located. And then we can begin working down. I don't have the correct angle yet on this primary group. You can see if I extended that line out, I'm way up here. So I need to take this down more, take it lower, so I can angle this primary group down more and get the proper angle as it tucks into the side pocket here. I do want to show a little speculum out here on this side. So I'm going to drop that side pocket group down here. But we'll sketch that as I get this lowered first.
Okay, I'm going to use a little 1/8 inch cylindrical ruby bit. This bit has grit on the end of it. And I'm just going to slowly push this in. And I'll go from both sides. You can see the bit is working pretty hard because the wood is already smoking. Not my sharpest bit here. It'll do the job. I'm just going to slowly go from both sides, go through, and then begin opening that up with the side of the bit. You can see that bit got hot enough that it's actually burning the wood. And just a note of caution, when you take a bit like that out of your grinder, don't use your fingers. It kind of goes without saying, but if you're new, I've probably burned myself a few times taking a hot bit out, and I've just gone to using a tool. I'll show you that, I think, here in a minute, to help get a hot bit out of the grinder. This is an older bit, so that's probably why it's heating up so fast. Some of the grit is gone. I've got a through hole. Now I want to shape that up a bit. And here's where I'm going to use a tool to remove that bit because I know it's hot. I'm going to go back to my flame-shaped bit, and I can use that to begin to shape up this tail curl. I want to put a little side curl from the top-down view. So I'm working around the edges of that to begin to define that side curl. Make that look like a curl on a mallard's tail, which is what we're shooting for. I can go inside that hole and begin to blend out and around. I'll use the tip of this bit, go down the center line here, and then angle from the center out to form that V shape, very characteristic of the tail curl. Also, my center line on that is following the side curvature of the feather shape that I've carved. To really accentuate that nice side curl you see in a mallard's tail. And now I'll just spend a little time in this area with this bit and cleaning things up and getting a nice shape to the tail curl, defining its perimeter a little more as it meets the top of the tail there. I can use the tip of the bit to really put more definition around where that tail curl meets the coverts here and the top of the tail.
Just cleaning up the primary supports as I'm here in the tail coverts area. It's starting to take shape. It'll take some additional work, some sandpaper, but that gives you the general idea of how I would go about carving that area. Again, using that bit is hot, so using a tool to get it out of there. I had mentioned I need to lower this primary group to get my primary angles correct. So I'm going to do that now. I'm using my cylindrical burr to lower that section. Now I can angle this group down more, and that's going to make more sense, the angle I need to tuck into the side pocket. So I'll continue to work that until I'm satisfied that I have the correct angles. Now that I have that side lowered, I need to lower this side a bit to match up with it so that it makes sense from side to side. So I'm just taking material out here until the angle of that lower primary group matches up. Now I'm going to dig in a little bit on the back here, put some shape to the separation between the scapular feathers here, and then begin to define the cape, which is actually raised a little bit above and laps over the scapulars in back. So we want that cape to be slightly raised. That's an area that it seems a lot of people get that wrong. They want to dig in that cape and make it concaved, and those feathers actually overlap here on top of the scapulars. It's pretty subtle. We don't need a big balloon up here. We just need a little subtle definition around the cape. I'll take some time and round those areas until I feel like I have the right curves and softness. Just a little better view of the cape. You can see I have too much of a ridge there, so I'm going back and just softening that a bit. Taking out this area around the neck. All right, the body's shaping up. Now I did some layout work referring to my patterns, and I used my dividers to transfer dimensions onto the carving that I've done. I want to start having this primary group exposed and tucking into the side pocket. So I'm going to use my cylindrical burr again, go along the edge of this primary group, and now I can lower this material in this area. Put a little definition around where that wing tucks into the side pocket. And I've got it tucking into a subgroup of side pocket feathers. So I'm going to have the rear of the side pocket behind where these tuck in. So I'm going to define that right now, carving in the rear edge of the side pocket, and then taking material out down below to put some definition and curvature in the side pocket. So that defines where the rear edge of the side pocket lies, according to my pattern. Now I'm going to dig in up here and begin to form the side pocket and scapular groups. And I'm dropping the feather groups on this side of the side pocket so that I can expose some of that primary feather group with all the color and beautiful blue speculum. So I've used my pattern to define where those should be, and then I'm going back and forth to create some curvature in the side pocket to make it look like a group of feathers, and then some curvature in the scapulars over, up and above. I'll have to work this for a while. I'm going at this cautiously because I don't want to take too much wood out too soon. But if I don't take enough wood out, I'm going to end up with something that looks like a cube instead of a nice soft round bird. Now you can see I'm kind of defining where that wing and speculum are going to tuck into that subgroup of side pocket feathers there. Starting to get some roundness here. Sometimes I speed up the video to get through it quicker. I'm hesitant to do that on this bird because it's a small bird. Things are pretty tight. I'm using a burr, so I'm more comfortable just showing this at regular speed so you have a feel for the speed of carving and not trying to do this too fast. You can see I'm just going back and forth trying to define that area. You can see in the light it's starting to take some shape. This side I'm not going to have as much speculum exposed on the side away from the preening bill of the bird, so I'm just going to carve kind of a normal side pocket on this side, maybe pull a little bit of speculum out, but not as much as on the opposite side. This tucks right in under the cocked back head up here in front. And as you go, I like to keep going back to the pattern, checking my dimensions from side to side. It's easy to get these side pockets kind of whopper-jawed and not looking symmetrical. And so I just encourage you to continue to reference your pattern if you have confidence in it, and make sure that the carving is matching up with the intent and the accurate dimensions. Okay, that's starting to shape up. I just need to round the scapulars here. This area tucks right under where that head is going to be pulled back. Nice round side pocket here. I'm doing a little bit of work to define where the underlying primary group cuts into the side pocket there. And I'll decide later how much speculum I want showing over there. Right now I just want to get my rough shapes right. That's starting to shape up.
I'll often go back and pencil in. You've seen me do that before. I just think it makes it easier to see symmetry in areas that are out of whack. It's looking pretty good. There you can see from the back, nice rounded shape.
Okay, I wanted to stop the rough carving. I'll go back and check dimensions with my pattern and just continue to refine this so that I hit my pattern dimensions. But before I get too far, I wanted to get a head position determined here for this preener. And I think I want the head where he's just about digging into the edge of the cape there, with maybe a little bit of a turn on the head that you see normally. So I've identified in this area kind of where the neck needs to ride, and right now that area is rounded. I just left extra material there. I'm going to flatten that off so that I can bring this bill down to touch the cape. So I've got room to do that. So I'll do that slowly till we get a pleasing position on the head.
Okay, I'm going to go back to my cylindrical burr again and kind of follow the center line that I've struck there and just flatten an area roughly the size of the neck. I've kind of penciled that to give myself a guideline here. And I believe I want to angle it down here a bit. So I'm going to go at this slow. That's much closer already, so I don't need to take off a lot. I think I need to change the angle a bit. Take off a little bit more and flatten this out so that I have good contact between the head and the body. Just taking a look at the angle that I want on the head. And a lot of times I make these decisions right now as I'm carving, because it's always hard. It's one thing in a pattern. It's another thing when you have a three-dimensional shape and you can kind of see things in the round. And I make my final decisions on head positions right at this point, normally. Unless it's just a straight ahead, flat resting position or something. That's looking pretty good. Kind of like the way that looks. That's close to where I want to be. I think I'll work with that. Now I want to put a little shape in the breast, and this separation between sections of the breast, and I want to end up with kind of an S shape coming up the breast and around the neck, and leave the breast a little heavier on the side opposite to the head over here. So I'm going to take my cylindrical burr, carve a round shape, begin to create some separation here. Do the same thing on this side of the breast. And then take this material out between those sections down below, just so those sections will cast a little bit of a shadow down here and give us some dimension and structure to the breast. You can see I've got some grain there. I'm going to have to work with sandpaper to make sure that grain doesn't transfer through the paint. So I'm lowering that section between and then rounding each of these breast halves. Of course, I'll have to come back and sand this and final shape it, but I wanted to get this in here as I'm looking at the head position to help get a nice graceful line coming up to match up with the head. There you can see a little bit of shadow cast. I'll have to keep working on that a bit, but it's starting to shape up. I'll do final shaping around the neck after the head is attached. So this is just rough stuff.
Okay, we've got the body rough shaped, more refinement to do. We've got a head position established, more refinement to do, but kind of generally in the direction I want to go. Head kind of cocked back, really digging into that cape area, shoulder. All right, everybody, that's a wrap on session 2. I didn't get quite as far as I had planned, but this is not my full-time job. This is a retirement job, so I want to keep it fun, so I don't worry too much about perfection in videoing and editing. I apologize for that, but the feedback has been good. It's been, for the most part, helpful. So we've got the head carved. I'll get that detail bill in the next session. We're just going to add the nail, some nostrils, a few bill details, get the head mounted, get the body detailed. I want to do a little carving around the tertials, the primaries, and get this finished up, get the bird sealed. I don't have to float this particular bird, so we can seal it up and get it ready for paint. Until next time, Tom Christie signing out. I hope you're getting some value out of my channel, and I hope you'll come back. See you then.